Hi, I'd like to show you how to mix up some brushing medium and how to use it to brush glazes with. So to start with, you'll need some hot water, a little measuring cup. I'm going to do 8 ounces. You can make up larger quantities, but you need very little of this stuff. So 8 ounces of water. Hot water, because you have to dissolve this powder. It's got gums in it, organic gums in there. So if you use distilled water, the solution will last longer. Ideally, you mix it up the day before, and then all those gums won't stay gummy and clump. You can mix it up the same day, but it takes a lot more stirring and mixing to get it all blended together. So I found that 8 ounces of water and 3 teaspoons of the brushing medium is a nice combination. Now you may want to change a little bit more, a little bit less, but this works. Now this is the Laguna brand brushing medium. Laguna makes a brushing medium and it's proprietary. We don't know exactly what's in there, but I do know it has CMC gum in it. And brushing medium, what's good about it is, besides reducing the surface tension of the liquid, it also hardens the surface when it dries. So when it dries, you can handle it. It won't be powdery. So say you have a kind of dusty glaze, maybe a copper red that has very little clay in it. Add some brushing medium and it won't be so dusty on the surface. Another thing you can use it for, I'm going to stir as we're, another thing you can use it for is to add to metallic oxide washes. And a wash is, the classic one is cobalt, and I like to use cobalt carbonate. It's a little finer and it is cheaper. The problem with putting cobalt on a glaze is you touch it, it can come off as a powder on your fingers. And when it comes off on a powder on your fingers, you can put it in another place, put your fingerprints on the piece. Or worse yet, someone who's loading the kill will pick up your piece, get their fingers on it, put it down, then pick up someone else's piece and transfer that cobalt. So if you put some of this brushing medium in with your wash, and it's just cobalt and water, it'll help suspend it, which is nice, but it'll also harden the surface and make it brush a little bit better. To get this solution. So I'm just going to keep stirring. Almost. After stirring, I finally have it smooth and there are no more clumps. Now you can use it. So to use this, now remember, it's easiest if you do it the night before. Just put it in, leave it overnight. It'll absorb, stir it up in the morning, and it'll be smooth like this. If you're impatient like I am, keep stirring, shaking, and you might even want to run it through a screen to get it to that smooth consistency and get those clumps out. You don't want to lose too much of the actual gum, actual brushing medium. This is normally used when you're mixing a glaze dry. You put the dry powder in, you mix the powders up, and then add water, and you won't have this problem. Generally, what you want to do is have small amounts of brushing glaze. You don't want big amounts. You don't want to mix up a large container of brushing glaze because there are gums in here, and the gums tend to start smelling after a while. They rot. So it's important to just mix up small amounts. You can keep that small amount of brushing glaze, but just mix up a little bit at a time. Now, to use this, I have a dipping glaze here, and I've let it settle. It's been settling overnight. It's got water on the top and the glaze is down at the bottom. Now, this is the right consistency for dipping and for pouring, but for brushing, you want to get a little bit thicker. The easy way to do that is just to simply pour off that excess water. Just put that in there. So now the glaze is thicker. Now remember, all these glazes are just minerals that are in suspension. They're not dissolved in the glaze. So it's important every time you use it to stir it up, and stir it up well. Here that will into your skin, so you can put your hands in it. So you want the glaze to be a little bit thicker for this process. So I'm going to take the finger test, and you can see, you can't see my fingernail. It's still a little, it's on the thick side. So I'm going to take and measure out 4 ounces of the glaze. Just a little bit. 4 ounces of glaze. I'm going to just put the water right back in and cover up my glaze. Remember, water evaporates, so you may have to adjust the glaze every time you use it if you've left it open. Okay, I've got my glaze, and I'm going to show you what it looks like if you just brush it directly. A little piece of bisque here, and you brush, and it's hard to get a nice even coat. See how it goes really thick, and it dries almost instantly. Perfect for dipping, perfect for pouring, terrible for brushing. If you don't have any of the brushing medium, sure, you can brush it. Just be careful. A good way to do it is to just kind of flow it on. And then remember, when you brush, you can't get quite as thick a coat as when you dip. So you want to put at least 2 coats on. And a good strategy, you can't see my brush marks now, but after the firing, you will. So a good strategy is to brush it a couple coats in opposite directions. Now you can see how that's all raised up, and it's not a very good brushing glaze. To make it a good brushing glaze, just add a little of this brushing medium I just mixed up. Very little. Add it in small amounts. Add it, stir it, try it. Take a piece of bisque that you don't care about, and try it. Now look, it's slowed that drying down. It's staying wet a lot longer. The coat is much, much smoother. I'm going to add just a little bit more and stir it in. Now, instead of using this as your container, you could put it into a little bottle and squeeze a little bit at a time. That way you've got a little bit more control. So I'm going to try it again. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Maybe just a little bit more. Doesn't take much. Yeah, see how it stays wet? and it smooths over. So a couple coats both directions. So to use this on a pot, what you want to do, brush it on and keep track of where you started, because the thickness does count with these glazes. They do change color. Not all of them, but most of them will change color depending on the thickness of application. So there's one coat. Still a few brush marks. I'm going to just add just a little bit more. Really stir it in. Yeah, that's looking good now. See how it stays wet? Another way to, if for example, another way to make a glaze so it's brushable and you don't happen to have any of the medium around, what you can do is add a couple drops of dishwashing detergent. I use Dawn because that seems to work really well for me. So I've got 2 coats. I might even put 3 coats on it. Wait till it dries, and you put the 3rd coat on. Opposite direction. Now, how do you know if it's thick enough? What you do is you scratch it. Scratch it after it's had a chance to dry. And the glaze, for an average thickness, should be about as thick as your fingernail. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to scratch it. And that's a really good coat. That little scratch, after it's dry, rub your finger over it, and the dust will heal it. So that's how you mix up brushing medium and how you apply the glaze with a brush.